Good afternoon and welcome everybody. Um, we'd like to, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Paula Morrison. I'm a research coordinator with Interior Health. I'm also a yoga teacher in the community, and I'm grateful to work alongside Jaquetta and the Embrace Aging team who bring you these events. Thank you for coming. And we'd like to respectfully acknowledge that UBC Okanagan is situated on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Silicone Okanagan Nation. Welcome to the 11th annual Okanagan Embrace Aging Month, and thank you for joining us today. We're going to have a presentation by Jonathan Lowe, who is speaking to Silicone to Fitness. So I'm curious, I'm looking forward to learning alongside you. So Embrace Aging, I wanted to share with you, is co-hosted by the Institute for Healthy Living and Chronic Disease Prevention at UBC, Okanagan, Interior Savings and Interior Health. UBC Okanagan has joined the global network of age-friendly universities, formalizing its pledge to make UBCO more accessible, intergenerational, and committed to research programs that are informed by the needs of an aging society. If you'd like to know more about the Age Friendly University Initiative or have suggestions to get involved or would like to get involved, please contact the Aging in Place Research Cluster. And there's a website for that, aginginplace.ok.ubc.ca. Like I mentioned, Embrace Aging was launched 11 years ago to celebrate and raise awareness about positive aging, and has once again organized a number of educational opportunities and events during the month of March. I'm hoping you have been able to attend some. There's been some really fun interactive ones as well, and in person, and the online ones are so accessible. The sessions are designed for everyone, young and old alike, and focus on a variety of topics related to healthy aging and ways to improve quality of life among seniors and their family caregivers. Our goal is to inspire everyone to embrace positive aging. So thank you so much, and I appreciate you being here. The website, I think, is on the chat, and then if you have questions, you can always post them in the chat, and I'll hand the torch over to Jonathan Lowe.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Paula. And welcome, everybody. I'm super excited to be with you today. And hopefully we'll have a great engaging presentation, and you'll be able to walk away having learned something is my goal. I think that oftentimes we can go to webinars and we can go to sessions, and sometimes the speaker is a little bit drab, and sometimes you don't learn much. So hopefully by the end of today, you'll be able to sit at your dinner table with whoever you're eating dinner with and say, oh, I learned this cool factoid today, and you'll be able to change or apply something that you've learned to your life. And that's kind of the goal. And so as Paula said, my name is Jonathan Lowe. I'm a PhD candidate at UBC Okanagan. I'm doing my PhD in exercise, clinical exercise metabolism, and have a deep, deep, abiding love and passion for exercise. And especially in the clinical populations, and have kind of previous to doing my PhD, I worked for a few different tech companies, so have tried to weave a little bit in some tech elements to my degree as I've studied. And so hopefully today we'll get to touch on some of these things. So as I mentioned, the objective for today is that you might be able to get to the end of this presentation and make one small change to help improve your own health, or if you're a practitioner in the healthcare space, to your practice. So how am I going to do that? How am I going to achieve that objective today? So we're going to take some time, and we're going to talk about the three different parts that comprise the title of my talk. We're going to talk about technology. We're going to spend some time talking about aging, and then we're going to spend some time about exercise and physical activity. And we might get a little bit physiological there. And so you might have to bear with me. And of course, hopefully we'll have some time for some questions towards the end in case anything that I say doesn't sit with you, or you need to check your understanding. So all of those three things, kind of as you can see here, are this three this three-legged stool that's propping up the objective to today that hopefully we'll achieve. Before we do that, and to kind of set up the stage, we need to think back thousands and thousands of years when we think about this idea of health. And for today's purposes, the idea of physical activity and exercise. And we need to think about our ancient ancestors. Now, life was a little bit different back then. And life was more revolved around surviving and trying to save the energy expenditure that you needed for the times that you needed it, which was usually revolved around chasing down your food or running away from something that was going to try and kill you. Now, if we fast forward to today and think about how life has changed, I would propose to you, I would argue that unfortunately, a lot of what has happened has surrounding developments in society have maybe kind of engineered physical activity out of life, out of our lives. If we compare our lifestyle to those of our ancient ancestors, we probably comparatively could argue that we're fairly sedentary. We maybe sit a little too much. We don't move as much as we should have. So we think about that in the sense of where society has gone. What can you do? You can order your Starbucks to your door, and you don't even need to leave your couch. And if we fast forward and look at that even more into a post-COVID world, well, that even just gets a little bit crazier because we think, well, now I don't even need to go grocery shopping. I can order my groceries online. I can click and collect, or I can click and deliver. Amazon brings me my package right to my door. I can order diapers for my kid. I don't even have to leave the door. So many things. We have almost, as I mentioned, engineered physical activity out of our lives. Things are open later. Delivery services, skip the dishes. We could go on for hours. You think about, gosh, how do I turn on my TV? I talk to my Google and I say, Google, turn on the TV. I don't even need to get up and get my remote. So movement as it is has really taken a back seat for our purposes of what we're talking about now in a lot of our lives. So I want you to just take a second and I guess before we give the little thought moment I'm going to give, you can see propping up kind of the statements that I've made is the estimate that about 50 to 60% activity levels have decreased during and post-COVID. So I think we're a little bit further down from this idea of post-COVID, but we're trying to kind of get back on our feet with physical activity levels. But nonetheless, maybe you felt the effects of that over the past couple of years of okay, I'm not going out, and I am a little bit more sedentary. So I want you to take a second, and there might be a little bit of silence, and that's okay, because you're gonna have a little bit of homework through this presentation. This isn't just coming and sitting and not doing active learning. You're gonna active learn. So take whatever, if you have your phone or if you have a piece of paper, and I want you to think about your own individual life. And based on what I just went through of these services that are available now readily in society, and I want you to think and actually write down if you can, activities or places where you have engineered physical activity out. What is something that you do or a habit or a service that you leverage that might be reducing your physical activity as you access that service or as you partake in that habit? So take a couple seconds, take a minute. I'll give you some time to think about each of your individual lives. Where is that going? Okay, so hopefully you've had a little bit of time to think about that. And now we're going to go into this yin and this yang principle. So you might think, oh goodness, Jonathan, you kind of have given us a bunch of doom and gloom when it comes to physical activity and where the world is. But now we're going to look at the bright side of things. We're going to look at the opposite side of the beautiful things that have come from technology and the advancement of technology over the years. And we're going to think about physical activity into our lives. If you think, I don't know if, I obviously do not know the age of anybody here joining, but if you're like me or older than me, you might remember the 80s. I, by 1 year, remember the 80s. But if we fast forward, those were kind of the days where things like aerobic fitness. I remember growing up and my mom would do Charlene Prickett. I don't know if anybody had her, but she was step aerobics and there was a lot of kind of faces that did these aerobics, and all of a sudden 70s and 80s you started seeing people running on the street. What the heck is that? What are they doing? Who are they running from? But what, they're running just for fun? And now we're 40 years beyond that, and we are, goodness sakes, there's gyms on every street corner, and there's all different flavors of gyms. You can get the Planet Fitness that has your spa and your tanning built in. You can get CrossFit gyms where you go in for, there's there's yoga gyms. There's all different flavors of physical activity and exercise. And it's fantastic to see that. And when we think of how that looks, we can see that technology beyond these gyms has played a really central role in trying to improve physical activity habits. You can see this paper that was published that showed that success rate of 75% in improving physical activity habits. So where you might say, okay, Jonathan, you kind of gave us some doom and gloom. Well, beyond gyms and different flavors, there's also different flavors of technology that can help increase physical activity. Again, whether it's in your life or whether it's in the life of somebody, whether you're a doctor or a physiotherapist or whatever you might be doing, similarly, you can help improve somebody's lives. So when we bring in, kind of weaving in the idea of aging, you can see that when we think about aging and elderly individuals, technology and mobile health and fitness wearables are really useful to try and change health behaviors. Because when we think about all the things that technology can monitor, and we're going to talk about that, don't worry, it really can help improve the life and the independence of elderly individuals. And I'm going to argue that very strongly when we get into the physiology of why you should care about what I'm talking about. So welcome to the 21st century, ladies and gentlemen. We see technology everywhere. This is just a sampling, and we're going to see a lot more later on. You can talk to your doctor on FaceTime now. You can step on your scale, and within seconds, your weight is transmitted to your app on your phone, which then can be transmitted right to your doctor. We've got watches, we've got rings we're going to talk about. Gosh, we're into glasses and contacts that can help monitor your health. You can see here little things that we look at that we will talk about as well, that are blood glucose monitors. You just slap something on your arm, it injects into your arm, and you can monitor all sorts of physiological variables that are going on in your body. So it really has driven what we call this self-quantification movement, right? Whereas, again, maybe I saw 1 year of the 80s, but maybe in the 80s, heaven forbid I ever stepped on a scale, let alone knowing what my blood glucose was or being able to contact my doctor so easily. So we really, with technology, as we've progressed, we've been able to engineer physical activity into our lives. If you are not scared of technology, and I'm going to argue that you shouldn't be scared. So what I want you to do now is I want you to take another moment, maybe a minute or so, and I want you to think about how you, again, in your own life or in your own practice, have engineered physical activity into your life. Maybe you recently bought a Fitbit. Maybe you recently decided to get some sort of fitness program that's online. Think of for a moment of how you've engineered physical activity into your life. Maybe you've decided to park farther away at the grocery store so you get a couple extra more snaps. Maybe you've started to try to incorporate what we call exercise snacks throughout the day. So whereas I'm here at the university in a 3-floor building, I don't let myself use the bathroom on the first floor where my office is. I make myself sprint up the stairs to the 3rd floor bathroom if I want to use the bathroom, because then I get a little exercise snack in to try and engineer physical activity in. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking for a second so you can think of your own personal lives. Okay, so we've kind of compared and contrasted where you have engineered in and where you have engineered physical activity out of your life. So as I've kind of talked about so far, here's some problems where we're engineering physical activity out, and maybe you picked up on some of these when you thought about your life. Delivery services, elevators, escalators, drive-in, click and collect, as I mentioned. But then we've also got the solution available, readily available, if we want the solution. And hopefully by the end of today, you will just be so excited for the solution that you see here and that I'm going to present to you, because you'll understand the problem and the importance of getting to the solution. So we get gym memberships, exercise classes. You can do all sorts of different physical activities. And of course, we have technology to aid us in all of what we might want to accomplish with this. So, okay, great, Jonathan. You've presented a problem and you've presented a solution. But we know that basic behavior change is such that we have to bridge that gap if you're going to try and want to do anything. So why should you care? You might be sitting there thinking, oh, this kid doesn't know what he's talking about, but maybe I don't, but I maybe do. And so I'm going to try and tell you why you should care about technology and aging and physical activity. Well, first of all, because you could probably become a billionaire if you're in the market for some cash, which maybe a lot of us are. If you, I think very commonly accepted, widely accepted, is that if you were able to create a pill that I could take every morning that did exactly the same thing that physical activity did, you would become a billionaire. It is argued that physical activity is the most commonly prescribed thing from medical doctors. But it's not a pill yet. It's something you have to actually do. You have to invest in. You can't open your cupboard and you can't just swallow something and then that's it. You don't have to worry for the rest of the day. You have to invest a little bit more. So beyond that, maybe none of us will ever get to the point of inventing the physical activity pill. Well, so what else do we do? Well, we can get out and we can move. So again, bear with me here. Don't worry about all this mumbo jumbo. I'm gonna try and walk you through it. The main point here, why you should care about this, is that it will help you live longer and healthier with a higher quality of life. And I'm going to show you how. So there's a study that was done that looked at longevity effects. And they found that individuals who exercised over 150 minutes a week, but less than 2,000 minutes per week, lived longer. And these are some of the benefits that they noticed. So you can see, I'll try and explain a few of these. And if any of you, there's some that you want me to explain later, then please write them down and we can come back to this slide during the question period. This could be an entire 2 hours that I could talk about this to you, but I won't. So, but you can see here that as you exercise, there's a lot of things that happen physiologically in your body. So I'm in the stage of I've got a 4-year-old daughter and a few other kids, younger kids, and I'm trying to teach them about their bodies and the physiology. This is me being a physiologist. And so our bodies obviously have blood pumping through them. Blood carries oxygen. When you want to move, you have to move, your muscles need to move your bones, obviously, because our bones are the structure. In order to do that, our muscles generally need oxygen. And so when we look at things like, for example, a VO2 max, you might say, what is a VO2 max, Jonathan? This is something I'm going to talk about a little bit. A VO2 max is a measure of how much at the maximum amount that your body can exert itself, how much oxygen is your body efficiently able to use. What you're bringing in, breathing, okay, can my lungs take in a lot of oxygen? And then are my muscles able to efficiently use it? And then I'm going to exhale the waste and everything that I don't use, carbon dioxide, right? So this is something that's really cool. So as you exercise, you maintain or increase your VO2 max, or your body's ability to utilize oxygen efficiently, which maybe you were sitting, I don't know, down, and maybe you were watching Dr. Phil. I don't even know if he's on anymore, but maybe they were talking about antioxidants, or this idea of oxidation that happens in our bodies. And all of that surrounds oxygen, right? So if your body is more efficient at using oxygen, then you're going to be able to live longer. You're going to have less oxidative stress going on, right? When we talk, maybe you've heard about, again, similarly, if you watch TV or if you scroll social media, a big buzzword these days is this idea of glucose utilization or insulin resistance and insulin secretion. So you can see here similarly that it's very important for you to care about this, because as you exercise, your body more efficiently utilizes insulin and needs less of it to be able to do its job, right? So very, very, very important. Among other things, you can see vascular, your heart, the health of your heart and your endothelial function. So that means all of your arteries and your veins and their ability to do their job also improves as you are physically active and as you exercise. So just to put this in for a thought moment, look at these two pictures. And I want to, both of these people are 90 years old. How would you rather look when you're 90? Maybe you're like, Jonathan, I don't really want to live long, and that's okay. But maybe, hopefully, we could all agree that as you do live, however long you want to live a high quality of life, right? You want to have joy, you want to be happy. I think most of us do. So if you look at these two pictures, who would you rather be? How would you rather look when you're 90 years old? Would you rather be Charles Euster, who ran marathons when he was 90 and lived a very high quality of life? Or would you rather be this other person on the right who probably isn't running marathons and maybe has a very low quality of life with certain disabilities? I think that maybe we would all agree that we would probably want to be Charles Euster. So that helps support this idea that I'm proposing to you, that yes, it is important that you are physically active, because if you want to be like Charles Euster, you need to have these adaptations that I was just outlining to you. So how does this all come together? So we've talked a little bit about physical activity and exercise, and now we're going to talk a little bit more about aging before we get into the idea of technology. Okay. When we think about aging, sometimes it's a little bit of and I love this idea of Embrace Aging Month that the Institute puts on, because I think it really helps us to do exactly that. It helps us to embrace aging. To be able to embrace aging, we need to learn about aging. So think for a second, again, another thought moment. What are your perceptions of aging? When you think about aging, whether you're in your 30s like me, or whether you're in your 50s or your 60s, what's your initial thought? When I say aging, what's your initial perceptions? What do you think about aging? Now, be honest with yourself. We're gonna watch a video here, and I hope that the audio, works. So we might have to troubleshoot this a little bit. So Polly might have to give me feedback here. So I'm going to play this, and I hope it's gonna work. Does it work? Can you hear it? Hold on, I'm gonna press play, Polly. You give me a nod or not. Do you hear it?
Not yet.
But you can see it moving.
Can see it moving.
Okay. Okay. I think I have to. When I go here, there's something we might have to skip this as much as I love this clip so much.
Oh,
I think there's something. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm
yep.
going to pick this up. I think I'm going to share it from my a different screen here. So just bear with me. And I'm going to go here. And we're going to see if
Looks like a fun title.
oh, it's so great. Okay, so I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna stop sharing and
Okay.
I'm gonna share again my Chrome tab. Sorry, everybody. Please be patient. And then I'm gonna no, here we go. I'm gonna go back here. I'm going to
I think
go
we've all been there on some
right,
event at some time when you need
now,
to
okay,
pause.
yeah.
Maybe it's time to get up and stretch.
There we go. That's exactly what we should do. Should
Take a
have a
breath.
little take a
Oh, there's a
stretch break.
YouTube link.
Yes.
Get a
Okay.
shirt.
So I'm gonna click. We're gonna speak this again. Now it should work.
Hey, how's it going?
There it is.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. So now we're gonna watch this fun.
There, that's for Mark. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Great.
Awesome.
Just tell us your first name and your age.
My real age?
My name is Paolo. I'm 25 years old.
My name is Daniela, and I'm 19.
24. 35.
31. 33.
I'm 26 years old.
What age do you consider to be old?
Late 40s.
Maybe 50.
I feel like 30s and new 20s, so I'd say like 40 is old.
I'd probably say 50s.
I'd like you to show me how an old person would cross the street. Show me how an old person would send a text message. How might an old person do a push-up? What about jumping jacks? Okay, hang on. There's someone I want you to meet.
Hello, I'm Birch. I'm 66.
Hi, I'm Daphne, and I'm 68.
I'm Dee, and I'm 55.
George Fassbinder, 75.
My name's Parvati. I'm 70.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
We're gonna give you about 2 minutes to teach each other something that you are good at.
I can teach you a jump that I do.
Okay, please.
Both of your legs go up, and your arm goes up, and your left arm goes like to the side. Ready?
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Lift 1, 2, 3. And bring it to your heart. And bring it to your heart. Add the head in. Yeah.
You want to try to get your balance and raise up. Now, you can bring your legs and your feet up. It's hard, right?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. So when you come out of the turn, either way, you go back to that place.
Over. Now forward. Over. Yeah.
Square it like this, and give me a hook. Hook. Jab, cross, hook, and then we'll go like this. All right?
1, 2, 3.
Now, what age might you consider to be old?
Probably 80 or 90. He could just do everything that I told him to do.
An age that I would consider to be old now might be 100.
Do you remember what you said?
Yeah, I said in the 50s. I thought that would be okay. But when I thought about it, like...
Wait a minute.
I'm sorry.
It really changed my thinking of what old is.
You've taught me something today. Clearly, there's no way she's old, you know?
Now I know from today, hey,
I don't look at age.
At my age, I feel like I did when I was in my 20s.
There's so many things that I still want to do. There's so many things that I can do. As long as I'm growing and learning, then age doesn't matter.
When people start stopping, that's when they start getting old.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Daphne.
It was great meeting you.
How long have you been doing this? Is this a new skill?
40 years.
Wow.
Awesome. Okay, so as you can see here, aging is it's just what we make it, right? When as that one person said in that video, as soon as you start stopping, that's when things happen. So I propose to you to not start stopping, and whether it's yourself or whether it's people you are working with, when you think about it. So let's look a little bit more about some physiology about aging and why this is important. So you can see here, this is a study that was done. And when you talk about, again, the VO2 max, so that's your body's ability to efficiently utilize oxygen internally and take in oxygen. If you compare sedentary individuals, so those are the open squares here, as they got older, you can compare them to the endurance trained, or those who were active and were trained. You can see a huge discrepancy in between the two groups, such that those who were endurance trained had higher VO2 max as they aged. That's very important because, as you can see here, when we look at the relative risk of death, those who have a higher exercise capacity, which can also be defined as a VO2 max, functional capacity, those who had a higher VO2 max or exercise capacity have a way less risk of death. So all of that summarizes to say, the more we exercise and are able to keep up our VO2 max, or our body's ability to be active, the less risk of death we have. Similarly, when we look at beyond maybe going for a run, we look at muscle strength and age. As we age, we unfortunately do lose muscle strength. The general process of aging is that we do lose our muscle strength. But the great news is that if we train and if we take resistance training seriously, that is not the case. We can counteract that. So here's a way you can counteract aging. You can see this is a really cool study that age is not a factor to gain muscle mass. So they recruited a bunch of individuals who are over 90 years of age and older. They put them through a resistance training program, and they saw strength gains of 174% in these individuals. So significant gains in muscle strength, size, and functional mobility. So that goes to show that although in this slide we see that yes, as we age, if we don't do anything, we do lose our strength. The good news is that if you actually do something, you do not have to. You will not lose that strength. Unfortunately, it's not a pill. It's not a medication that you can just take. I would argue that exercise is a medication, but you can't just take it when you wake up in the morning. You have to get out and do something. It involves getting out and doing something. So similarly, again, if you look at, this is a study that was done that looked at moderate to vigorous physical activity and all-cause mortality, right? So there's this sweet spot, right? That 150 to 300 minutes of physical activity decreases that hazard ratio of mortality, right? So, and then if you look on the flip side, if you are not doing any physical activity, if you're sedentary, you've got a very high risk, a hazard ratio of mortality, a high risk of death, okay? So that should hopefully perk your ears up to say, okay, what my doctor's telling me is real, because as I do get exercise, You will maintain or increase your VO2 max, which enables your body to efficiently use oxygen, which will help you live longer. So maybe you think, okay, Jonathan, well, how much should I be getting? So based on guidelines that have been put out by the government and many other governments, you can see here that the recommendation is about 150 minutes per week of moderate to vigorous physical activity. And that you should also be including muscle strength activities at least twice a week, and activities that should challenge your balance as well. That seems like a lot. And you might think, gosh, Jonathan, I'm not doing anything. How am I supposed to jump to all of that? And you're not supposed to. If you're not doing anything, I personally would not recommend going to 150 minutes per week with 2 strength activities, but you can get there. And you should be getting there. And that's the important thing, is that there should be physical activity in your life. So take a second now that I've kind of blazed us through this physiology, and think about what's the big deal? So how can you change? Maybe you might be sitting there and thinking, okay, I do want to change. Well, how can you change? So how has your life situation affected your physical activities and the things you enjoy? So if you think, okay, I'm not moving as much as I should, and that really does affect the way that I interact with my grandchildren, because I can't run after them anymore, and I can't lift them up because I don't have shoulder strength to do that. But I would love to do that. I would love to be running alongside my granddaughter who just learned how to ride a bike. Or I would love to be able to lift up my new grandson and carry them and hold them for longer than 5 minutes before my shoulder starts to hurt. The news is you can. I'm telling you that you can make that change. It might require a little bit of time and effort, but you can do that. And based on what I've just told you, what do you understand about how physical activity can apply to you, specifically in your situation? I want you to just take a second and think about that. So now we've covered exercise. We've talked about exercise and aging, and how aging isn't what we might think it is. So hopefully after that video and what I've just explained to you is that you can be 80 or 90 and you could be as flexible as Paula in her yoga class, or you could be as strong as you want to be able to lift things in your groceries. So we've talked about some barriers and some concerns, and you kind of know the solution of, okay, I need to be getting 150 minutes. So where does technology come in, Jonathan? Well, that's a really good question that you might be asking yourself. And we're going to visit this tech hub, what I'm calling the tech hub. I've got two slides. Unfortunately, the presentation is only about 40 minutes, so we won't get to dive as much as I would love to into these. Again, I could talk for hours about these. But maybe you think, yeah, Jonathan, you told me in one of your slides previously that the success rate of maintaining physical activity habits increases by about 75% when we involve technology. Now, again, a whole nother thing is whether that's where you're able to maintain the physical activity. But what should I look for if I do want to involve technology more in my life? I want to engineer physical activity into my life with technology. Where should you start? Well, here's some features that I would consider, especially in terms of aging. If you are an aging individual, or if you have a grandparent aging, or if you work with individuals who are aging, here's some things that I would consider just based on what I've done on my research. So a really important feature is, you can see here on the right, my right, incident detection. So if I do fall, or if I am out being physically active, or if I'm even in my room, a lot of devices that you can buy today's world have incident fall detection. So you set up some emergency contacts, and they get notified and called and emailed and texted if you do fall, if your watch detects a fall. Alternatively, you can push and hold a button on a lot of devices, and if you hold it for 30 seconds, it will automatically send a notification to your emergency contact. So if you do fall and it doesn't recognize it, or if you are, for example, in a safety situation, if you're out by yourself, you just push and hold a button and it sends a note. So that's something to consider if you're thinking about technology and using that. Heart rate monitoring is really important. As you might talk to your doctor and work with your doctor, heart rate tells us a lot. It's kind of your speedometer when you think about it in your car. Your heart rate tells us a lot about what's going on. As an exercise physiologist, there's a lot of what I can see if you were to send me a heart rate profile after a physical activity, after a session of exercise. So that's important. I would prioritize heart rate monitoring. GPS monitoring. When we think about that, when you think about individuals who might be getting lost easily, or might be getting forgetful on how to get home, a lot of devices have GPS monitoring. Medication reminders is very, very useful. Whether we like it or not, probably we're all going to end up being on some sort of medication. A lot of devices have the ability to send you medication reminders and to log whether you've taken them or not, which is very useful for your healthcare provider. Workout suggestions. This is another thing that I think is really important for a lot of us. Maybe I might roll over in the morning and I might say, gosh, I do know Jonathan in his speech told me that I need to be more physically active, but how? I don't know what to do. So a lot of watches will now show you, they'll have a suggestion for the day. Well, maybe you should get out and do this workout, and all you have to do is click go, and you can do it on a bike, you can do it on a treadmill, you can do it walking, you can do it running, you can do it swimming, and you just push the thing and it will monitor your heart rate according to your age, and it will walk you through a really good workout. And then it takes your heart rate and then it adjusts. Basically, it won't give you these same workouts the same days. It will adjust based on what your body is telling the watch it needs. So whether it needs an easy workout, it will prescribe an easy workout for you. Another important thing, again, if you think about type 2 diabetes and type 1 diabetes, gestational diabetes, a lot of these devices, if you choose the right one, can pair to glucose monitors. So they're devices you put on your arm, and they will communicate with your phone, but also with your device, so that you can know where your glucose is. Again, when we think about exercise, it's a very important consideration for those living with type 1 diabetes. But additionally, you can see and adapt accordingly if you have type 2 diabetes. So another really cool thing. When, again, useful features, we could talk about this for a long time, but you can see here, these are some other useful features that we might consider and that these technology has built into, from VO2 max estimates, as I mentioned, body battery, stress, how stressed are you? Blood oxygen, if you have sleep apnea or COPD, you can get a blood oxygen, a device, a watch that will monitor that. ECG, blood pressure. Again, these are being incorporated into watches, but also into shoes, into rings, into glasses, and maybe even into chips that you can inject into yourself someday. So there's a lot that you can take into account and that you can utilize in your technology pursuits, that you can think about and try to improve in your life. So we've talked about exercise, the importance of exercise, some physiology of exercise, and aging. We've talked about the idea of aging and that it's a beautiful thing, and that we don't need to be scared of aging if we try to not stop, right? If you try to maintain your physical activity, park far away, walk upstairs, walk far distances, you can maintain your ability to move, and you can look like Charles Euster that we saw at 90 years old and running marathons. So just to recap, the idea of today's objective was for you to hopefully make one small change in your life or your practice to improve your health, or those of your patients. To do that, hopefully you've understood a little bit about technology, how it can play a role, exercise, and aging, that all prop up this idea to improve your health as you age. So thank you so much for your time and for listening, for your ear. I know there's lots of other things you could be doing on this Wednesday afternoon, but thank you for listening, and hopefully you're able to learn something and take something away. So I'll turn the time back over to Paula, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. That was food for thought and exercise and yeah, lifestyle, and the tech I thought was super fascinating. And I'm a early adopter of tech usually, but I've just learned about glucose monitoring recently, and I think it's really amazing that we have that technology available to us. I had a friend and her dad she was getting texts, and it was from her dad's glucose monitor that his sugars were off, and he was texting her. She couldn't answer. He was texting, and he was saying, "It's okay, I'm going to eat." So I think how powerful it is that we can connect that way and use that technology in such a powerful way. I always think you adopt technology that is best suited for you, and that's how you adopt it too. So that's exciting. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm just going to check to see if we have any questions because we have a little time. Oh, there's another interesting video that's been posted that you might want to check out later. It's Tellus's Golden, the End of Ageism. And that video was powerful that you shared too, because I'm in a stage where I'm in the middle, and I definitely don't think I'm old, but I remember when I used to think this age was old. And I have a grandfather who lived to 105, so I have a little bit skewed perspective on aging. Enough about me.
There you go.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm just going to double check. I see another chat came up. Is there a cheaper alternative to the Fitbit?
Ooh, great question. Yes, I would say there definitely is. The way that technology has gone, we kind of were talking about this before we started the presentation, but the meat and bones, the insides of what forms a lot of these technological devices has become cheaper and cheaper as the years go on, and as they're more and more commonplace in the world. And so I would say yes, there are definitely. There's a lot of, for example, there's the Diana ring. There's rings that you can buy that are fairly cost effective. And even if you go, the lower end models of a Fitbit or a Garmin or a Polar can certainly still serve the purpose. And as I mentioned, whereas maybe 10 years ago, I would have said, be wary of buying a cheaper end device because the technology might be a little bit cheaper and might not be as accurate or valid. I think that we're at a point now where even the lower end devices, if you want to buy a more cost-effective device, certainly you are still getting a good reading. You can still rely fairly well on the metrics that you might get, whether it's heart rate, whether it's step count. They've come a long way. So I would say that yes, there is a cheaper. For example, in a company like Fitbit, there's different models, right? And so you can buy a cheaper model similar to like Garmin. There's cheaper models that you can buy that still would give you a lot of good, great information. So I would say that yes, it's becoming more and more accessible.
And from my experience as a tech in my other life, I always say, look for what's suited for your lifestyle. So you don't need all the bells and whistles, then you don't need all the bells and whistles. If you're more of a walker, or you're more of a weightlifter, or whatever you're looking for, you can get advice on which ones are best suited. Another question.
I think too, Paul, I think that's really important. And I would recommend this probably could apply to anything, but if you haven't bought a device and you're thinking you might want to, or some technology, I would do exactly that. I'd write out a list of the top things you want, like you do if you're going to buy a house or a car. Because as soon as you start looking, the companies are going to bombard you to make you think you need all the extra bells and whistles. And then you're going to get distracted and think, oh, maybe I do need that. But if you go back to your list, then you can stay on track.
Yeah, it's great advice. Another question from Carol is, do we have to worry about the personal data these devices access?
Oh, that's a fantastic question, Carol. Yeah, definitely a buzzword and something to think about. So a lot of the companies, what they'll do is it'll be like an opt-in kind of a thing. So for the most part, your data is 100% safe and according to GDPR regulations, but they will have an opt-in option. So if you want to share your data and have it used for research purposes, of course it's anonymized, right? When they use it, then it's just a check mark. But I would say, similar to a lot of things, when you create your account for these companies, that's going to be a checkbox that they're going to ask you, and some of them might have it already checked, but you just need to make sure you're aware of it, because it'll say, would you like to share your data for the research team, or would you like to have your data publicly available? And then you can just click a no or a yes box. Similarly, like we have social media, all of these companies, there's Strava. Again, we could go for hours about the different options, but there's a lot of apps too that will sync your data, and then you can have connections, friends, and then you, instead of scrolling Facebook and seeing, you just scroll people's workouts and you can like their workout and comment on it. And some people find that useful to have that social element. But in that context, then you would be sharing your data with only the people who you allow to be your friends on whatever app that you're using.
It can be super motivating too, I think, for the certain groups that like to be in those social settings to do that.
That's right. Yes,
Yeah.
it definitely can.
Thanks for the great questions, Carol.
Mhm.
I think we're wrapped up with questions. So I want to say thank you, Jonathan, so much for your presentation today. I did learn things. I can
Good.
have a discussion with my kids aren't millennials, but they're Zeds, I guess. So they're just,
Okay.
I can have a discussion with them about what they think is old. I'm curious.
There you go.
And I'm going to say thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, Jaquetta, for your support in organizing, as always, the Embrace Aging Month. We encourage you to attend other events scheduled for Embrace Aging. You can find those events on the OkanaganEmbraceAging.com, and there's registration link there too. We look forward to growing this event and encourage anyone who wants to support this Embrace Aging events, please contact us, and you'll receive an email with a link to an online evaluation form, and we welcome your feedback and suggestions. And we want to say thank you so much for attending and learning with us today.